stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, please be seated. Thank you all for coming. I'd ask you to, if you have your phones and they're not on silent or turned off, please do that. We'll start with roll call.
Mayor Bain, Mayor Pro Tem Scalise,
Here.
Councilor Guerrero. Here. Councilor Lundstrom.
Here.
Councilor Sherman. Here. Councilor Spradlin.
Here.
Councilor Strout.
Here.
Okay, you all had the chance to read the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to make on the agenda for tonight? If not, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote?
Councilor Strout.
Yes.
Councilor Sherman.
Yes.
Councilor Lundstrom.
Yes.
Councilor Spradlin.
Yes.
Councilor Guerrero.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Scalise.
Yes. Okay, approval of the minutes. You've all had a chance to read them. Any additions or corrections at this time? If not, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote?
Councilor Guerrero.
Yes.
Councilor Spradlin.
Yes.
Councilor Strout.
Yes.
Councilor Lundstrom.
Yes.
Councilor Sherman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Scalise.
Yes. We'll move into visitors and delegation. So we have a presentation tonight by Doreen Hills, who is the founder, director of the Center for Healing, Trauma, and Attachment. So, Doreen, whenever you're ready, please come up, wherever you want to work from.
I can just work here.
It's better for the sound with this microphone that hangs down, because it is recorded.
At the podium.
Oh, at the podium. Yeah, that would be
We can
fine.
stand over here.
Microphone
Up above you.
Yeah.
above your head. Oh! Let's see here.
Can this be turned around?
I can probably just,
How do you want? Do you
Well,
want to present to
usually
you
it presents to
You
council.
present to council then.
okay. How long do you guys want me to speak?
What's a good time for you? Let's see.
About 10 minutes.
That's fine.
And if it's going above and beyond, just let me know.
Okay.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone. And I'm very happy to be here at the Brush City Council. My name is Doreen Hills, and I am the founder and the executive director of the Center for Healing, Trauma, and Attachment. I wanted to share to everyone what we have been doing since we moved here in Brush. We're actually the new not tenant, but we moved to the 206 Clayton Street, which was used by the downtown duds long time ago. So I wanted to just briefly let you all know what we've been doing here and how significant the work that we're doing with regard to serving Morgan County, especially the Brush City. Oops, let's see here. Clicker. I think it clicks when you're close there. There you go. For those of you who do not know who we are a nonprofit organization. We received the 501c3 status I believe it's 2016. We provide outpatient mental health service, which means we do provide counseling, individual, children, adults, and family couples therapy. We have been in existence since August 19 of 2015. We have been in Fort Morgan originally, and we moved to Brush just actually during the pandemic, I believe it's 2017. We are at 206 Clayton Street in Brush, Colorado. For those of you that don't know me yet, I am a counselor. I have been a counselor for over 20 years. I'm licensed in Colorado. I'm also licensed in New York State. I have been specializing in pretty much working with the treatment of traumatic distress. And what that looks like is I work with people that experience significant amount of post-traumatic stress as well as complex trauma. Complex trauma means someone who experienced trauma at a very early time of their lives. Next, please. So our vision, what the Trauma Center, Center for Healing Trauma and Attachment, we're also known as CATA. Our vision is very driven. We're passionate and we're fearless, offering cutting-edge treatment. What I mean by this is we are not afraid to work with trauma cases. I am not afraid to go into the abyss with our clients. I walk with them, beside them, in front of them sometimes, and sometimes behind them. I always believe that people deserve to be healed by the right treatment approach. We have been noticing over the last few years that people come and see us as we are the last resort. They've come to different agencies, they've come to different providers, and by the time that they come and see us, they're already angry, they're tired, they're exhausted, and what we need to do on our end is we need to be the best helper that we can be. People we serve has been suffering for years, and so we do not have, in my mind and in my heart, I have a very high standard with regard to treatment of trauma. We are committed to finding ways to provide quality and affordable therapy, and that is why I sought to be a nonprofit treatment. In that way, I can apply for grants and also receive donations and some type of fundraising, so when people cannot afford treatment, they'll be able to come and see us with no money being a hassle. We desire to serve, our desire to serve fuels us to be the pioneer in healing trauma in Northeast region, not only in Morgan County, but also the neighboring Northeast region here, where a lot of people, cannot receive trauma treatment. They have to go to Denver, and we don't want them to go there. We, as much as possible, if we can provide that here, 45 minutes or perhaps an hour, that's better than 2 hours or, more than that. Next, please. Our mission is to provide effective treatment of trauma and attachment disruptions that occurred during childhood. We do not believe in cookie cutter approach to treatment. Each person is different. We believe that one person may PTSD cannot have the same treatment as when I'm working with a complex trauma like a child. So we do provide something that's personal and something that's very individualized based on the goals and hopes of our clients. They're always the priority. Next, please. Our purpose, the biggest thing that I wanted to share with the council and also the attendees is we listen, we care, we attune, and we deeply value goals and desires of every human being that walks in our door. We work with ethics and morality, and every work that we do, we always search for the effective ways in helping people. We want people to not continue to survive, but also moving to thriving. Next, please. Why are we different? You guys are probably wondering, okay, well, we have a lot of other mental health providers here. Why are you different? we believe that, and it says on research, 75% of treatment success depends on the relationship. 25% are just therapy goals or therapy tools or techniques. So we do heavily rely on providing secure, safety, and nurturing relationship, not only with our staff, but also with the clients that we do work with. Relationship is very important for us. Next, please. We also pay attention to the story of our clients. Instead of looking at it as what is wrong with you, we always look at it as what happened to you. It is important for us to understand the story before we make any type of referrals for medication or any diagnosis. And I think that is very important when we're working with trauma clients. Consistency, routine, and predictability are some of the powerful ways of connecting with people. Oftentimes we deal with people that experience having clinicians leaving them. Counselors work with them for 6 months or 3 months or 9 months, and then they're gone. It is important for us to make sure that we go with them, we be with them for years. I have been a provider here in Colorado for many, many years, and I have clients that I work with for 3 to 5 years. And with complex trauma that happened in early childhood, treatment can be pretty long. So it is important that consistency and predictability on when I see them, it has to happen all the time, routinely. Next, please. We also believe that we need to understand the functions of the brain in the treatment of trauma. Oftentimes the brain is what gets impacted by traumatic distress, especially with when we work with PTSD, with veterans that have PTSD. So all of our staff, including me, are very much aware of the significant function and importance of the brain in treating traumatic distress. Next, please. So what is trauma? Just a little snippet of what it is. We all know that trauma is very overwhelming, and it is the inability of a person to cope. It is also a threat to safety, sanity, and security. Trauma is unique experience to each and every individual. Just because one person has trauma, that doesn't mean the other person has the same reaction to that. The 3 main components that we focus in working with our people, with the clients we serve, is the sense of self. When somebody experiences significant trauma, their sense of self gets so foggy. Who am I? What is my purpose? What is my security? How can I protect myself? What does my future look like? What is God? Is there existence of God, spirituality, all that, as well as hopes in life. So sense of self gets really affected by trauma. Sense of regulation, what that means is the ability to maintain and manage emotions, and even big emotions. Another part of the trauma, what trauma affects, is the sense of movement, coordination, and space. I work with children that experience significant trauma growing up, and we incorporated physical therapy in order for them to regain syncing again, sequence, balancing, and be able to move, be able to play without having those accidents. So those are the 3 components that trauma can do to one's body and one's mind. Next, please. So our programs, the purpose of it is driven to heal, as what you can all see. Counseling is, I do provide counseling at the trauma center. I'm the only counselor here right now, unfortunately, because we cannot find someone that can stay for many, many years. So I cannot put our people's, pretty much lives at risk here for somebody that can only stay for 6 months. I cannot do that. So counseling is only one of the components that we do We also provide yoga to help us, not spiritual yoga, but yoga is to help with maintaining that regulation, be able to learn to breathe, staying grounded. Physical therapy is what I said. You know, children get significant help by that, by working on their balance. Massage therapy is for them to experience some type of, you know, that it's okay, that this is a safe touch, and also some form of grounding. Art, I just wanted to share with the council here, this is actually run by volunteers. We just started last week. Art is connection, building that relationship with people, that it's okay to connect again, to connect with the body, but also be curious and be creative. We started quilting. We just and that's really, I think it's so cool, you know, super excited about that. So we have quilting art, and we also have crafting as well as painting. The other two parts there, which is very science stuff, brain map is, I do this, and this is assessing using what part of the brain needs help, needs some type of healing, and instead of trying to guess what needs, what type of treatment needs to be done. Through using the brain map, I can see what part of the brain still needs to be, still needs some improvement or some help. Heart math is a tool that we use to guide people practice synchronized breathing. So those are just some of the programs that we have. Pretty different from outpatient, isn't it? It's pretty new, but I believe in this program. So, next please. The other piece that we've been doing, trainings and outreach. We focus on, and much more. We focus on helping people understand and learn, stress management, learn about trauma. Recently, I've been doing grief and loss trainings, self-care, civility, leadership, attachment. All of these are actually synchronized to make sure that people reach their wellness and thrive in their future and in their present time. Next, please. Our impact, we've been here since 2015. We have served approximately 3,000 people, from young children, and I'm talking about the youngest one that I have right now is about 4 years old. And so I told parents, just, let's get started now, so in that way we can help this child thrive, and then not worry about trauma impacting her in the future. So we've been working from young children to late adulthood. We have been, the trauma distress is what it is. It's exposure to abuse, neglect, PTSD from war, domestic violence, assault, grief and loss, and also the collective impact of the pandemic that affected each one of us. Next, please. So our partners, and I do hope that everyone can be our partner, everyone can be our friend. We welcome, and we would like you guys to join us. We've been in partnership with all the counties, the counties in Northeast Region, Morgan, Logan, Washington, Yuma, Morgan County Family Center, Share House, the Sarah House, the Yuma County Hospital. Once a month I go to Yuma Hospital to serve the people there. Morgan County Churches, the Brush Chamber of Commerce, I'm going to include the Brush Council here, and also the 13 Judicial Victims that work with the victims program. Next, please. So again, as what I said, our program is a nonprofit, our funding source. I write grants when I get a chance. I just wrote about 3 grants, and so in that way we can continue direct service. We have enough money to when we have people that don't have money or they need scholarship, we can pull that. You know, issues with insurance if possible, right? Or seamless treatment, that's what we're hoping. Contracts, fundraising, donations, and self-pays. Next, please. Our hopes in the future for Morgan County, the Brush, Fort Morgan, and then the nearby Morgan County residents to access our traditional and non-traditional services, that everyone deserves to get the right treatment and not be put on a waiting list or not be put on medication immediately. Because we know that in the treatment of trauma, not necessarily people can benefit in medication immediately. This can be accessed by doing these kinds of services. Continue, my hopes is, my other one is continue educating our Morgan County, our Morgan County about trauma and ways to heal trauma. Finish the north side of our building, because we're using it for groups. And also, if anybody would like to volunteer, please just connect with me. We would like to increase our volunteership. Next, please. So our current events, I don't know who's familiar with podcasts, but I just released few topics about healing trauma, and they're available for free at on these platforms. And we do have this upcoming training, which is in the next couple of weeks. It's called You Are Not Alone. This is for community members. It's from 11 to 12:30 at the Trauma Center, 206 Clayton Street. And it's certificate of attendance is included. Next, please. And I think this is it. Here's how to get a hold of us. Just call me, text me. It doesn't have to be that, complicated. Or you can also email. We do have our website. It's www.carainc.org. And I just, I looked, because we were applying for designation of historic, the 206 to be a historic building. And, during the history of the 206 Clayton, it spoke a lot about serving people. And it may be starting as, retail, but we're moving it to serving Northeast Colorado. So thank you so much for allowing me to join and share our center.
Thank you, Doreen.
Are those your pamphlets over there? Doreen?
What's that?
Are those your pamphlets over there?
Yes,
on the
sir.
table? Because
Thank
all
you.
your information's on the pamphlet too.
Yes, please.
If you want it, so you have to write it down.
And just from my perspective, 6 years ago this month actually, my kids lost their mom. So we, as you'd imagine, we've done a lot of therapy, a lot of trauma work, and I think non-traditional stuff like this, in addition to that, would have been amazing. So thank you so much for doing this for the community. I think it really is a vital thing you're doing.
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
I wanted to just share a little bit about the non-traditional program. The non-traditional program accesses the right brain. The right brain does not have words, but it accesses creativity. I had a lady that has very low self-esteem, and she was afraid to join the art group, and she's been doing it consistently. It was scheduled at certain time, and she brought me, a few weeks ago, she brought me a canvas, and she told me, look at what have I done. And I was able to, she was able to articulate what that means.
Wow,
So, yes,
Very cool.
we believe in that.
that's good. Thank you.
Anybody else on council have a question?
Just one thing, Doreen,
Yes.
there's a grant that's available now. I mentioned it to you, the Open for Business Main Street grant. And that's to help with making modifications to your building, the facade, and also energy improvements. And Rick is a point of contact.
Oh,
So
that's
just-
Rick. Okay,
yeah.
hi.
Yeah, so it's a great it's a great program, and so we're trying to put together a collective grant application for 14, 18 businesses in the downtown area, and it has to go through the city of Brush, and then we apply, and I think we've got a very good chance at getting those grants simply because we're a graduate level Main Street program in the state, and because and there's only 5 or 6 of those communities,
Oh, wow,
we should have a pretty good shot at getting those funds.
that's
And I dropped
wonderful.
off an application to you.
That would be great.
I already did.
Oh, you already did?
Oh, I wanna do another one.
Yeah, probably another one, so.
And that's federal funding that goes down to the state of Colorado, and then the city applies to the state for it.
That's awesome, thank you. And we really like to get support from especially Brush, whoever would like to volunteer, and help us, serve and heal, Morgan County from trauma. That means a lot to us, so, thank you.
We appreciate your
Thank you.
efforts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move into visitors and delegation, citizen comments. Is there anyone, before I open the public hearing, is there anyone from the public wishing to address council tonight that is not part of the public hearing for the model traffic code ordinance? If so, and it doesn't look like we have anybody that's wanting to do that,
I'm not sure if this is part of the model traffic thing or not.
name and address, please.
Nancy Kelly, 425 Powell Avenue.
Thank you.
And maybe it is, because what I picked up from the office is in this packet, ordinance 88821.
Is it about the campers and stuff?
Yes,
Okay.
I talked to Dana,
Yeah. Yep, that's what we're gonna
That's
have the
part-
hearing about today.
Part of what we're
so-
gonna talk about.
Yeah.
so I need to sit down and be quiet.
Oh, no. We have to ask you to sit
Give you a
down
chance.
for just a minute,
Okay,
because we
sure.
want Chief Boss to come up and give us some background on what we're talking about tonight.
That's good, because that would be helpful to understand.
Okay.
things. Thanks.
Chief?
Good evening.
Do we need to open the hearing first?
I'll be
Chief,
brief.
before you start,
Yes, sir.
I need to open the public hearing, so having said that, we're opening the public hearing right now.
Works for me. So a couple pieces on this. The model traffic code in general is updated every 2 years. That's done by the state, and generally we follow suit. We haven't done that since 2003, so this is a few months past due. We're trying to jump up to the 2020 model traffic code. A few changes that we've made. In 2003, there were not child restraint requirements that were built into the model traffic code, so we built those in. Those have been removed because they were added to the model traffic code. And then the RV or trailers parked on the streets, that's a city ordinance we have, and we've modified that because in the summertime we have people who camp and all kinds of issues with that. So I know we discussed back and forth the best way to do that, and I believe it landed with just suspending the 3-day requirement from Memorial Day until a week after Labor Day weekend. So with that, I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay. Well, Chief, don't go too far, okay?
I will
So
not.
you can respond, because I'm sure there's gonna be questions. Okay, now that the public hearing is open, does anybody have any comments in regards to the model traffic code ordinance that we're talking about? Feel free to come up to the podium and,
Okay. You can see we have a group of people here tonight, and we have some concerns. And I would like to start with a question of why the council feels that it's a good idea to do that. To have campers parked on our streets, and not just campers. It says utility trailers, semi-trailers, and I saw a horse trailer the other day that I know's been there for about 6 months.
Speak up.
Oh, speak up, sorry.
We heard you okay.
It's those old people. I would like to hear from you why you want to do it. I know the chief of police said it was because you have a lot of people that camp, and I understand that. But we have some concerns about it, and so I wanted you to answer my question first, then we'll tell you. And I've talked to Dana, so she's kind of giving me some ideas.
We had some people that called in or wrote us letters that were upset because they were getting ticketed, and they wanted to go from week to week, because they go on the weekends camping. So this is the first I've heard of any pushback to it, so we figured for the summer, just let it go. So it's less, burden on our cops to try and keep track of whose camper's been out there. And that's why we only chose to do it for the summer. After that, it goes back to the 3 days.
I gathered that from this.
May I speak to your point?
Yes, of course.
So, for the subsection B, for the purpose of this subsection where they define trailer, I have to say that when we discussed it as a city council, we were targeting campers, specifically things taken for camping. And I agree that the two combined here with A and B, the definition of trailer that's given is just too broad. I definitely wouldn't want someone semi parked in front of my house for 6 months.
Exactly.
So I can see where we're headed with this, and I guess maybe that was probably remiss on some of my part. I know for sure I should have read it a little better.
But I think there are some other things that could be more specific as well. The way it reads right now, it doesn't say that you can park your camper or your trailer, whatever it is, in front of anyone else's house or just anywhere you feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
But it does not say that you cannot.
That I cannot speak to, but the goal here, to answer your question, the goal was just that we wanted to provide, better options for those people who do camp. So that was the answer to your question. For the other piece, I can't speak to that as of yet.
One of my concerns is safety issue. I know we have some neighbors that had a camper. The people are moving, so they had a camper and they parked it in front of their own house all the time. But their neighbors, who were my friends, could not see to back out their own driveway. So it was difficult for them. So that was one of the safety issues. Another person that I talked to is on the volunteer fire department, and they said, and this had never occurred to me because I don't know anything about that. They said if there's a camper parked in front of a house, especially if it's like a big motorhome or something, it makes an issue of trying to put out the fire at the home. If there's a fire at that house, it becomes much more difficult to put out the fire. And like I said, that had never occurred to me. But that was one of the safety issues that they mentioned. And I don't know. I can see your point from camping all the time. In fact, one of our friends from church, he was just telling me last night that they have a neighbor, and the neighbor checked with him first, and he said, we camp every 2 weeks, and on the weekends. And he said, I would like it to be okay with you if we parked our camper in front of our own house. Is it a problem for you if we do that all summer? And he was following the regulations of moving it, was it 72 hours? Yes. And so he was doing that. I don't know where he was going, maybe for a day to a parking lot or something, and then back again. But he did check, he had the decency to check with him, and he was okay with it. So that's something they've worked out between their neighbors. I can see it causing problems among neighbors, possibly, especially if they take advantage of it. And when they could park in front of their own house and they don't, they park in front of yours instead. I just see some complications, that's all. I'm gonna share a picture just because I thought this was quite interesting. And this is a picture of a camper that we saw Saturday, and I have no doubt that they're just visiting. But you might wanna see this. Totally blocked the sidewalk. Their wheels are up on the sidewalk and their tip out is over the sidewalk. You couldn't possibly use the sidewalk. And their stairs that enter their camper are going out into the street. Which to me was a hazard. Pass it around, you can. And this could be complication, I don't know.
Sure. I'll let you.
Oh. Maybe you don't wanna see.
Goodness.
Maybe I should.
Was that here in Brush?
That was here in Brush on West Street.
Thank you.
That's
And
not
I just
great.
thought it was concerned. And Morgan, now this is hearsay. I think they just changed from 10 days to 5 days of how long they could park it. I don't know what their issues were, why they did that. And I'm sure these people are just missing them. I doubt.
Hopefully.
And what's to keep somebody from living in their trailer for 4 months?
We do have ordinances against that.
We have other ordinances that address it.
Okay.
What was that?
He said they have other ordinances that address the fact that they might live in it.
Chief Boss, can you address some of the stuff, like some of our concerns with the not being able to see? Do we have some ordinances that might cover some of that stuff?
Yes, so backing up a little bit in regards to semi-trailers, I know that's not defined in here, but we have weight restrictions and other issues that we can enforce aside from this. So truly, if somebody parks their semi-trailer on the street, that's a violation in other ordinances. As far as, trying to remember everything, but blocking the sidewalk, that's another ordinance violation, totally unrelated to this, so we can enforce that.
The other issue was blocking a view of a driver
Thank you.
trying to back up.
Thank you. So yes, I understand backing out of your driveway, there is a safety concern there. I wouldn't disagree with that. At intersections, we do have the 10-foot rule. We actually just repainted a couple intersections where there's crosswalks, which is 20 to 30 feet. So they can't be parked within those distances of the crosswalks, whether it's a vehicle, a camper, or anything, to prevent obstructing views. I do understand there's that concern about driveways. In our discussion during the work sessions, we talked about how many of these are there. Is it, a camper in front of every house? Is it not a camper in front of every house? Is the view obstructed to the point that it's a safety concern? And honestly, there's probably not enough campers out there to really be that major concern, but it only takes one. So there's definitely a balance there.
The other issue is first responders' response.
And again, if there's a fire, I know fire trucks have winches, they move stuff. Honestly, if there's a camper in the way and it's preventing them, I think the camper will move in short order. I would be surprised if it doesn't. And I think most homeowners would be happy to see their camper drug out of the way so the house could be addressed.
Do you know anything about Morgan's ordinance?
I do not.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Is there a way
Oh,
to
no.
address somebody parking their camper in front of their neighbor's house instead of their own?
There is not, because it's a public street. So we really can't designate this as your parking spot and this is somebody else's parking spot. And we have that same issue daily, just with cars.
Just cars.
People park in front of their neighbor's house and that's where the neighbor usually parks, or friends come over and park in the neighbor's spot. And unfortunately, it is a public street, so we can't designate this as your parking spot or somebody else's parking spot.
I will say that is a concern that the council had, was the parking in front of other people's houses. And I don't know if it's possible we can talk with the city attorney again about looking into that, or it has to be parked adjacent to your home. So that's something we can look into for sure, or maybe solidify that concern a little bit.
I think that will be a challenge because it's a public roadway, but he's the expert on it.
Could it be a nuisance? Could it be considered a nuisance?
I don't think so. I think that would be a stretch because it's the public roadway.
It's a public road and we have this. Okay.
Can you also address living in a trailer or RV?
We have other ordinances as far as living in an RV, living in a trailer, zoning. So there's many avenues to address that.
There are time limits on those?
On,
How long somebody can be in a motorhome or camper before it's considered they're living there? You know what the time frame is on that?
so we operate on overnight, so one night would be a violation. So,
What about when they plug their motorhome in and they run the extension cord across the sidewalk up to their house?
that's a challenge we
and
face all the
it's
time
been left there
because
for many days.
we use the camper plugged in kind of as our rule of is somebody living in it or not. So that's the first point of contact, if you will, to even see are they living in there, because there's a extension cord plugged in. So we use that as a point of conversation all the time. I've not ever received a complaint about a trip hazard with the cords, but
Thank you, Chief.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Steve Proctor, I live at 429 Howell.
So, I think when from what I'm hearing, the discussion was there might have been an assumption of a relationship, even though it's a public street, between parking a motorhome or a trailer in front of somebody's house. It's theirs, is what I'm hearing. maybe not, but that's what I'm hearing. That there's an assumed relationship between that vehicle and the homeowner who's parked in front of. And I don't see any language like that in the statute. So somebody could bring their motorhome or trailer and park it in front of my house because I don't have close driveways. I understand if there's a lot of driveways, it's gonna be a problem. But where we have long stretches of sidewalk with no driveways, what's my remedy if I have some issues with someone parking there because they're not in relationship with me or my neighbor anywhere? They're just, I can park my trailer and brush all summer and nobody can do anything about it. That's my concern. And I didn't move here and build a pretty expensive home here to be part of an RV park or a trailer park, because someone can park that in front of the house for 4.5 months. And the other concern I have is the jump from 72 hours to 4.5 months seems a huge jump to me in revising that ordinance. Seems to me there should be some middle ground. If someone wants, if they're getting it ready to go, that's what our neighbor, they get their vehicle ready to go, get everything charged up, get it all clean, whatever they do when they come home, they do the same thing, and nobody cares about that. But there's a big jump from 72 hours to 4 months to park it in front of it. And, I also don't understand why, I guess I don't see, because we live over by Sunset Park, and occasionally we have someone who will camp there for a night or two in the park, because the restrooms are open all summer. And then an officer or somebody come by and say, you can't camp here, and I appreciate that. But what's to stop somebody from parking on that long public street there from the corner, just to say before all the parking places start, or from the field to the west, parking their trailer there because they can all summer, and they may or may not be there long enough to be living there, but that trailer's gonna be there and block parking places to the park for people who are going there for baseball games or whatever it is. To me, this thing is a stretch from 72 hours to 4.5 months. It just seems to be not acceptable. And the assumption of a relationship that may not be there. I hear Brush lets me park my motorhome, my trailer, for all summer on the street. Great, I'm gonna go do it, because it saves me all that rent in my storage place. So,
Are you thinking that, like, people from out of town will bring their camper here and park it here?
sure, why not?
Then it could be considered an abandoned vehicle if they can't access the owner locally. So, I mean, there
Maybe
might
you-
be an ordinance that might help with that.
I just see a lot of discussion. We have another ordinance to cover all this stuff. But it just seems to be a huge jump from 72 hours to 4 months. In front of a house where I have no relationship with that person and that trailer. Maybe it's not an out-of-state. Maybe it's somebody from another part of town that can't park there because they have too many driveways. They don't bring it over to my neighborhood and park it over there all summer. And I just see a remedy if I have relatives coming who may be gonna stay for a weekend, or other people, like over the 4th of July maybe, where can I tell them to park theirs? Because I'm gonna have a relationship with them. I just see some issues with this that are gonna cause more problems than it's worth. Maybe there needs to be a permitting process for somebody that's gonna have somebody stay there for beyond the 72 hours. I don't know. But it just seems to be a real stretch to go that far. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don here, 430 Howell. The city of Brush used to have a street sweeping schedule. If you're parking trailers in for 4 months, what's the schedule? They had a schedule. I don't have a clue if they have that in effect today, because we don't see the street sweeper, more affectionately known as a dirt rearranger, to be used in Brush. It's not on the move. It doesn't cover our neighborhood very often. So I think that has to be considered too, because Brush has always prided itself in clean streets, and if you're parking trailers in there, that's going to affect the street sweeper.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. If not, at this time, I'll close the public hearing and ask council what they would like to do. Oh, excuse me. I need a motion to adjourn the public hearing. I'm getting ahead of myself.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
You don't need a roll call for that. No, okay. All right, so. Yes.
So, I appreciate everyone showing up. It really is, it is really helpful. I was going to come to council with, a couple people reached out to me this weekend, with their concerns that echo basically what everyone has already been saying. So, yeah, 3 separate conversations I've had just this weekend. So I would be curious if we could pass it without that section. I'm sure we can't, or just kick it to the next meeting, but I'm not sure the process.
You'd have to rewrite it first, right?
Oh, yeah, well, I don't know.
Right?
What is that?
We'd have to rewrite it first, right?
Well, we can postpone making a decision because we haven't, Dan Krob was not available, our attorney. So, if you would like to do that, we can postpone it.
I'd
till
like
the
to
next-
I think we definitely, I mean, there's a lot of things that we didn't realize would be concerns. So we definitely need to revisit and revamp what
Okay.
I'd
how
like
it's
to
written.
speak as well.
You have an option of continuing the meeting, so the public hearing piece is closed at this point. So if you choose to continue it to the next meeting, you can do that, and it'll pick up at this same point where you'll have the mayor here as well. And then you also have time to visit with our city attorney as well for anything that could be solutions to the question.
So, I also would like to thank everyone that came and spoke this evening, and I have to say that I did not hear from anyone, which is a little sad as I am a Ward 1 counselor. So you guys are always welcome to reach out to me for any issues that you may have so that I can help address those. I agree though that we need to revisit this because I do feel like we didn't consider a couple things. I know we had a lengthy discussion about this as a council, but I do think that we need to maybe look at it a little more. Now the continuation, Monty, if we were to do that, does that give us the opportunity as a continuation to change anything, or do we need to actually pull this back a little bit so that we can change something?
Right, you can continue it and not necessarily for the next meeting, then that way we can have another work session to discuss it before it goes back for a decision from council.
Okay.
And then, and that will give you time to visit with the city attorney, and he'll pick up from that point and advise you on process, procedure from there, that point forward.
I think it needs another work session,
Well,
it
I think
sounds
we-
like.
And we have plenty of time, this season's almost over, so we're really just looking for at next year, so.
I'd like to say that
It's time to get it right.
I'm kind of in a unique position as I just bought a new camper. And, but I live in Ward 3 and I'm on a corner lot where I have a huge side place to park it, and hopefully it's not a burden to someone. I hope someone would let me know if it is a burden to someone, but I didn't think about a lot of these issues, you know, just because I have a unique experience where I didn't really think it would be a big deal. But I am really curious about the permitting possibilities
Yeah.
that might give us some teeth in where it's parked. So that is a really good idea. I think that's something we can talk to Dan
I
about.
thought that was a
and see
great
if,
suggestion as well.
you know, where the permit states where the camper will be parked. And then possibly where it has to have neighbor approval to get the permit. So that might be something, you know, if they're one of your good neighbors.
But now I know, I can tell somebody that comes today, have a nice stretch of sidewalk right there by your house.
Yeah.
There's already a camera there.
So thank you all for coming and
So,
sharing this with us.
would a council like to make a motion to continue?
I move we continue this, continue the meeting, continue the discussion.
Take it back to a work session.
Or continue this discussion to a work session?
I would just continue it to a future council meeting, and in the interim, have a work session.
Cool. Alright, so I move that we continue to a future council meeting and in the interim, have a work session. Thank you, Mike.
We have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, well, again, everybody said that, but, you know, we sit up here and try to do the best we can, but sometimes we miss a lot of things, and we appreciate very much the public coming and telling us their concerns, so we can try to make it a better community for everybody. So again, thank you for coming. We're gonna go into future business, so if you don't wanna stay, you're welcome to leave. We always appreciate having a full house though.
Also,
If
guys,
you wanna stay, you're welcome to stay.
hey everybody, if you also look on the Brush City website, just talk to myself, it's fine.
All of our contact information is there. Please
Yes,
reach out.
Yes.
I got you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just don't leave them talking, I don't want, where are you going?
Seems pretty smooth. 1, 2, 3 eyes on me.
Is that what they do?
If you're cool, yes, I
Did you the young version? I'd say it was the 80s.
I think that permit thing is genius, I guess. Because then it can allow you to, require some things, make sure that it's registered, when you get the permit, so you make sure that it's registered through the period of when the permit, that's something.
So, we have two things.
Okay.
One is the rural designation, and then the other is for grant. It's through the Main Street grant. I went by and talked
No single person
Yeah, I guess not.
We better keep moving along.
A lot of people, thank you, reached out to me.
Okay, everybody, we're gonna move forward, so please, if you have a discussion, take it out in the hall. Okay, we're going to 6C. So resolution number 2021-8A. A resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement concerning election services between the Morgan County Clerk and Recorder and the City of Brush for conducting a coordinated election for the city's 2021 regular election and appointing the designated election office official. Staff report by Loranda Packard.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This resolution was discussed at last meeting's work session, where this is a necessity to do the coordinated election with Morgan County Clerk and Recorder this year for the November 2nd election. It's been before you for review the last meeting and this meeting as well. I'm recommending approval of the resolution.
Okay, thank you. Anybody want to make a motion to approve?
I move that we approve resolution number 2021-8.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote?
Councilor Sherman?
Yes.
Councilor Lundstrom?
Yes.
Councilor Stroud?
Yes.
Councilor Spradlin?
Yes.
Councilor Guerrero?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Scalisi?
Yes. Item D, 2022 priorities, and we'll have Monty Torres, City Administrator, talk to us.
Okay, in the city council's packet is a list of the 2022 priorities for the city. This helps shape the future of our city, has priorities that we had discussed at a priority setting session or a city council retreat. And we made the adjustments according to what was requested by the city council. There was only one area that we were unsure of, but we reached out to the council person that had made the recommendation. And so we think we've captured everything as requested by council. So we just want to make sure this is recorded in our minutes, and these are the directions from council.
Okay, thank you. I need a motion to approve.
I'm looking for it. Oh, there we go. I move we approve the priorities for 2022.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilor Stroud?
Yes.
Councilor Guerrero?
Yes.
Councilor Lundstrom?
Yes.
Councilor Spradlin?
Yes.
Councilor Sherman?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Scalisi?
Yes. Item E, Colorado Land Processor Stormwater Drainage Bond Agreement. We'll have Rick Roglian. speak to that?
Okay, so if you, I guess, have you had a chance to look in your packets for that? We have come to terms, so it's taken us a little while, but Dan typed up an agreement, we let them review it, and we came to a consensus that we would take care of the pond in a sense. We would mow it and put larvicide in it, and then they would put the appropriate trees along for aesthetic value. So everything else was pretty clear.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you. So, I need a motion to approve the agreement.
I would move to approve the Colorado Land Processor Stormwater Drainage Pond Agreement.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Garrell?
Yes.
Counselor Lindstrom?
Yes.
Counselor Stroud?
Yes.
Counselor Sherman?
Yes.
Counselor Spradlin? Mayor Pro Tem Scalisi?
Yes. Item 7, finance. Caught you?
Sorry. I move we approve disbursements and payroll from July 27th to August 9th, 2021 in the amount of $743,351.22.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Spradlin?
Yes.
Counselor Garrell?
Yes.
Counselor Stroud?
Yes.
Counselor Lindstrom?
Yes.
Counselor Sherman?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Scalisi?
Yes. Okay, we'll move to staff reports. Rick Kroglian, you're up.
Great. Well, it's good to see you guys. So I'll just give brief updates, bullet points kind of things, so I've got a lot on here. I finally turned in the annual report for the airport stormwater, so that is finished. The ADA evaluation and updated employee procedures, we finally finished that. That was a big one that we had to turn in, and it's procedures and policies that we'll be doing for staff, but has to have an ADA plan. CLP, we are finishing the last portion of the CO, which we talked about tonight, the stormwater agreement pond, stormwater agreement for the pond. And just to clarify that too, in that area, the stormwater from outside of their area is going to be going into that. So that was their agreement to make it a pond for the rest of the area, and then we would mow it. So there's a benefit both sides are getting from that. Building department, we're going live this Friday with our new software that we have, the MyGov system. It's the same system that Fort Morgan uses, and so I'm sure there are going to be lots of kinks, and so, but it's finally here that we're working on it. But because it's brought to our attention that we have some city codes that we have to update. So, for example, the wind speed for roofs is significantly lower than what it should be, and like rating system for hail and all that kind of stuff. So it's in our city code, but when David was going through it, David Basil, our city, our building inspector, was going through it, was like, it's not matching up to what the code says. And then he double checked with Fort Morgan, and theirs is correct and ours is not correct. So that's going to be something I'll bring to your attention soon, updating that code. Sursa hail damage, the hail insurance claim, we finally finished that. So that'll be $25,000 to cover his vehicles, and then $82,000 to cover damaged roofs throughout the city.
Wow.
So it's a lot, but we got some roofs to fix from that hail. So some of those areas were 2-inch diameter that kind of hit. So it wasn't catastrophic, but it's still roofs have to be replaced. So if not, it'll get worse. Chamber, the Rush Chamber. Many of y'all know that they are. It's open for a position. They're executive director, and they'll be going through interviews shortly, probably this week to next week. So that's sad but exciting at the same time. They're going through some growing pains, and I'm kind of helping them in that process with that, and with Central School and many other projects, and the Sands Theater, trying to coordinate with that with them. So helping them as much as I can, and Patrick's been helping as well. Monty did mention a little bit about the Main Street grant. This is a significant grant, and thankfully we are pretty high on the seniority on that we are most likely, we can't say we're guaranteed, but we're pretty close to guaranteed if you want to use those language. It's a large one, but it's a grant, but which you have to take all of them combined and then submit one together going after this. The caps are gonna be about 150,000 per building, what that could bring to the table. The bottom line is that they would have to come up with 80% of the cost, and then the grant will cover 80%, and then the building owner will have to cover the 20%. If it's a hardship, we'll try to find other things through some other means that we have, Main Street grants, facade grants and things like that, whatever monies we have left over, we can help them. But if it's a hardship, most of them are super excited about this because it's significant money coming in. We also have another small AARP Main Street that we've applied for, and hopefully we'll get that. It's $5,000, and we've applied for putting some information displays downtown is what we're wanting to put in. So it's like small little marquee kind of things for information stuff that we can do. Land. This is exciting. We finally got a land use application submitted today, and that's for the Westwood property. And that will be for rezoning. So that's the next step. Since it was just submitted today, then we'll start the process of going before the Planning and Zoning Board. So that's exciting. And if you have questions offline, you can come call me or come by the office and we'll talk about it. Historic preservation. So I think Doreen had mentioned this too, but there's a big push to try to get properties on the local designation. And so many owners are showing positive interest in this. So I've been pushing that hard. 2 housing developments are, one is for sure, one is on the brink, and I have a meeting with them again this week. So that's 2 developments. And then we have a government subsidized group that will do affordable housing, and that's a 3rd one that would be more like apartments kind of concept for that. So that's 3 developments that are looking at Brush. So that's what I have to report. Any questions?
Rick, would the codes you're having to update, wouldn't that be covered by just going to the 2018 building code?
Yes, but it's stated in our code, in our city code. It's got a table that table's gonna have to be corrected.
Correct. Oh, okay.
And I'm not sure. I haven't read the legal verbiage of that. If it can be changed by resolution or if it can be, I have to go through the whole process like we did with other code changes. So I have to look at that. Yeah.
Thank you.
And if it's not spelled out clear, then we're gonna put the resolution comments in there so that we don't have to go through the long process. So, but there's several other things I've noticed. We have an issue, I guess I'll just say it too, an issue with a homeowner that's got property that's beside the bike path off of Glacier, 504 Glacier, and it's about 80 feet long and about 6 feet wide. And so, and our code normally says if it's property that's beside a sidewalk or something, that homeowners are responsible to maintain that. Well, there's no other homeowner that's like him that has that much responsibility, and so he's very upset that he would have to take care of that property is larger than his front yard, so he feels very frustrated and kind of like he's taking it personally, like that's not fair. So we're going to have to address that. Monty and I have been thinking about creative ideas of what we can do, but Dan Krobs, he's also looking into it of what can we do. So that's causing us to have to look at the code where it mentions sidewalks, but it does not clarify if it's a bike path or pedestrian path. Other city codes I've looked at do clarify that to show what that is, but he could make a case that that's not the technical sidewalk. So we're going to try to clean that up.
This is the bike path that goes from Sunset Park through Howell Avenue over to Cambridge, over to Stanford, and then it ends up over on Glacier.
Yeah.
And the situation has always been that you have some of the property owners that really like to take care of theirs, others that don't want to take care of theirs, and then there are times when the city has went through there and tried to spray or something, and then the spray goes a little bit too far, the wind carries it, and then you get complaints there. But typically, I would say probably like 60-70% of the property owners really want to make use of that. It makes their property look better if they keep it clean and landscape it. But there are those that don't want to do it. And then this one came up where it was actually such a large piece of property that we thought we would start looking at the code again. And this was actually part of our priorities last year, but we just never got to it, but it didn't make our cut this time. So, but we still wanna clean that up because just to let the property owners know what that real code is, so there's no gray area. Cause you could look at it as a sidewalk, or they could say, no, it's a bike path or a jogging path, but we just wanna get that cleared up, and we probably have that to council in the next month or two.
Yeah.
Some ideas.
So I have 3 things that are gonna be coming to your
Is
attention
this the piece that connects Glacier and Applewood?
soon. Okay. Yes, it is. The more I think about it. Yep. So that's all I have.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Chief of Police, Derek Boss?
Good evening again. For the second time this summer, we lost our air conditioning most of last week. We have it kind of up and running. We discovered a leak in the roof during the process, so we had a flood right over here by the American flag as they were working on the air conditioning. So more repairs on the building. Also, with the animal shelter, we are packed to our gills. And then last week we had a scenario where we seized some dogs and had some dogs surrendered. And so we reached out to the state vet for assistance on emergency housing with that. That's the first time we've ever had to do that, but the shelter is still very full. So if you would like to adopt a pet, now's a great time to do that. The new internet is up and running, and many thanks from my department for that. We did some quick math the other day, and we've gone from literal days on e-discovery down to minutes. So our efficiency has increased exponentially. My office staff is ecstatic, to say the least, and we're actually able to feel caught up and get caught up and kind of be where we should be. So thank you very much for that. On Thursday, we tested for our officer vacancies. We have 2 openings. We extended 2 offers. One was accepted, 1 declined, so we still have 1 opening. And these are people that we're putting through the academy. We don't have any applicants who are already certified coming in. And actually the 1 applicant who accepted has a GI Bill to help offset the cost of the academy, so that's a plus for us, less money out of our pockets. We are one of the first departments in the state. This just came together this afternoon, but we'll be implementing a virtual reality training program through TASER. The idea is to do interactive scenario-based training for law enforcement, and so it's kind of a test site / new program that they're pushing out, but that'll be great for us, and it's not something that all the officers have to attend at once. They can do it one-on-one or one-on-one with an instructor, but this is the wave of the future across our country and really falls right in line with all the training that's being pushed out by police reform. So I'm excited that we're part of that, and I think there's a huge benefit for us. And then the last piece, we recently put together the regional SWAT team. That's been up and running for about 4 months now, and the existing commander retired on Friday with not much more than 2 weeks' notice, and somehow I got voted into that spot. I was out of the room talking to the DA, and I was not part of the conversation, and they just told me, hey, you're it. I'm filling in essentially as an interim. We have a commander from Sterling Police Department who will be taking over and has great credentials to do so, but he's brand new in Sterling, so probably through November to the end of the year I'll be filling that role until he's up and running with Sterling PD. So that's all I've got.
The animals chief, Steiner Sills used to take on animals. I don't know if Pam still does she? She might be a resource we can go through.
Okay.
Get Pam said.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Wasn't there a topic previously about expanding the shelter space?
We would like a new shelter. So right now we are been battling with contractor all summer, but we have individual runs built for each kennel out there, so that if we have a dog in quarantine, we have the ability to let it go outside for fresh air, which we never had before.
What's the capacity currently?
Our capacity varies a little bit, and let me explain that. So we have 5 kennels, but if we have a mother and puppies, we can house them together. So I wouldn't say we just have room for 5 dogs, because we could house many more if we have a mom and puppies.
Or like if they're found together and they're obviously compatible.
If they're found together, that's fine too. As
And
far
the-
as cats, we can house, I believe, 9 cats.
And the Fort Morgan one, they closed, correct?
Yes, more or less.
More or less.
They're open and closed. I don't know the status that they're at currently.
And I
But
get,
we are housing for everybody in the county except Fort Morgan PD.
what's the goal with our, what's the correct word here?
I don't know.
Pound?
We don't have a goal.
Is the goal to adopt them out? It's obviously a no-kill shelter.
So we can't be a no-kill shelter, because there are times where by statute we have to put a dog down. For example, we housed a dog for Log Lane, and with those circumstances and what happened there, that dog was ordered by the court to be put down. So we can't be a no-kill shelter just because of those legal ramifications. Our end goal is to return pets to their owners if at all possible, and if not, we try to adopt them out. We work very closely with the Dumb Friends League in Denver. They're phenomenal to work with us. We also work with Friends of Feral, with feral cats, and what they do, they take in all feral cats, they spay and neuter, and then they adopt out whenever possible.
Okay,
So that's the process. I don't know if that's the goal, but that's how it works.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Lorena Packard, City Clerk.
I just have 2 quick things. The first is an update on elections. We've had petitions go out, 2 for mayor, 2 for Ward 2 councilor, 1 for Ward 3 councilor, and 1 for Ward 1 councilor. And we will have, I'm expecting a little bit more interest on the mayor and Ward 1. Then the second thing is the Fire Appreciation Barbecue is August 21st. Anyone interested in attending or helping, please let me know. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Monty Torres, City Administrator.
Okay, a few items for council. First one is mosquitoes. Just letting city council know that we are increasing the amount of attention for spraying. The entire summer, we've been doing the larvicide briquettes, and you might notice in your finances this evening, there was another $3,000 or $4,000 worth of briquettes ordered, just to make sure we had enough to make it through the summer. And those get put in all the catch basins, the ponds, the wet areas around town, and that is to get the mosquito while they're still larvae. What we've had some challenges with is the spraying piece of it, because we've been so short-handed in the street department, and you have to be registered to be able to run the pesticide or manage the pesticides. But we've also had some of those employees from the street departments having to cover other departments, because we have some employees that have been injured and some that are on convalescent leave. So talked to Dell, and we've started ensuring that we do that more often. But they are doing it later in the evening than they used to, trying to avoid the walkers and those type of things. And we'll just keep that up to the rest of the summer.
On that note, Monty, I just wanted to extend my thanks, if you could, to Dale, because I was up the other night and I heard them come through at I think it was 11:30. So bless them for being up that late and doing that.
Yep.
I really appreciate that.
It does take them about 3 or 4 hours to do the whole town, and they don't just do inside town. They go out on the outskirts in certain places, and then they special attention to around Doty Pond and the field around it, and then also the golf course takes a little bit of time to go around the golf course. So they are getting out there, and it was earlier in the summer pretty wet, quite a bit of rain. Now it's drying up a little bit, and with the mosquito spraying, hopefully we'll catch up on that pretty quickly.
Is the shortage on help affecting the sweeper?
That's one employee that's out right now. Okay.
She's what?
She's out
Oh, okay.
on medical leave.
Oh.
And so we pull from another department for someone else to drive it, but then we have so many workers right now.
So we do have that schedule posted. But
Yep.
yes.
And our streets overall look pretty well. If you guys see something out of the normal, just let us know. We did buy a 4-H animal. We partnered with Fresh Foods, and we bought Blaine Ensley's steer. And so you'll see that in your next bills probably. The other thing I wanted to mention to council is on occasion I'm going to just talk about a few of the things on our priority list. So if we mentioned the priority list and the ordinance changes in regards to Rick's conversation. If you remember last year we had upgrades to technology. That was another priority. So technology is your online programs and building permits, things like that, different types of software we can use. We talked about increasing the speed for our internet. So like Chief said, is that it's way faster than it used to be. And Lou, I think we're pretty much done now, or close to being done with our phone system, the upgrades there. So that's been really good. So those were some things that we had on last year's priorities. On this year's, upcoming year's priorities, I did reach out to the fire department and I'm just waiting for a new updated estimate on the cost of the training facility, and then we'll bring that back to council for approval. We just want to make sure there hasn't been any substantial changes there. Also, on our administrative priorities, we had training for city council, and so just a reminder, the CML is the best option for council members to get some training there. And also, Chief has sent out through Loranda, I believe, the ICS training, and so there's 1 or 2 or 3 of those courses, for 3 for the council members, and we have some that have completed that, but if you haven't, it's a great one to get some training. And that's more focused on how to better understand your role if there is a large emergency that happens in our community or disaster. Okay. And then last thing is Rick mentioned, or someone mentioned ADA. Is it Rick? Rick? That's been on our plan for a couple years on our priorities. And so the ADA is in 2 parts, the administrative piece that Rick was talking about. But then remember, all downtown, that has all been upgraded to all the current ADA standards. And then last year, all the way through town on 34, all the ramps going up on the corner were set to ADA standards. And then this year, you see all the work being done on the highway through town from approximately Turner to Hospital Road. That's going to be all ADA standard, up to ADA standards on the sidewalks. And if you remember, Dan, when I first got here 16, 17 years ago, that was a big item that Dan had always talked to me about, is how do we do that? We never had the money because it's over a $4 million project. And so finally CDOT came up with the funding for that, and we had to put in a part from the city, approximately $400,000 of city money to help with that project. And you'll see out there that our city dump trucks are helping move the concrete. You might have seen that. And what we're doing is we're helping keep the cost down low so they can do a little extra sidewalk. So we believe it's going to be, they weren't going to go all the way to Turner, but now they are going to go to Turner. So end of the day, almost everything from the Ace Hardware store going to the west should be pretty much new. There might be a few small spots, but we'll work those into our plans in the future. But it's a great step forward on ADA. And so that is in this year's, or this upcoming year's priorities. That's all I have.
I have a question for you. So what happens with the city water steer? What happens with that?
Oh, we did the buyback option, and so they buy it back. Now, John Sweeney mentioned that he might decide to take it himself, but we're only splitting half the cost.
We wouldn't put so much money in there, right? We wouldn't put so much money into it, like $500.
No, I think it's going to probably come up more like $1,500. We usually have like $750,000. The problem is that we talked about everything getting more expensive. Well, 4-H animals are crazy expensive. And when you do the buyback, they give you the market value back off what you bid. And the city has always bought an animal, and it was getting to the end of the sale. They're running out of animals, so we partnered on one.
Was it a brush kid?
Brush kid, yeah.
We bought a pig last year.
Blaine Ensley.
He's actually in our 4-H club that meets on Main Street, so good job.
I have a question too. I was wondering, downtown, like in front of the theater, State Farm, they're marking, painting, water, I don't know, it's orange, blue with markings on our decorative, pavers. And is it, do you know about that?
I don't know about it, but we'll look into it. Someone called in a locate. I'm not sure if it's any of our crews that did a locate. It could be someone else's project doing a locate. And sometimes they'll do those for planning purposes, and then other times they'll be planning for a project, but we'll look into it.
Then they would be responsible for removing it afterwards,
Those paints typically dissolve within 7 days.
7 days?
Yeah.
Typically, they're designed to dissolve within 7 days. If not, they have to call in new locates within a week. I think it's about a week, isn't it, Justin?
Yeah, you have 7 days to dig. But a lot of that, like what Monty said, a lot of them are just using it to see what's in the way, if they wanna do a project type thing. And they're designed to dissolve, they'll go away, it just might take
They
a
will.
little bit, yeah. It's not actual spray paint, it's a water-based paint, more like a sprayed chalk. It's a little
Okay.
more sticky, I guess, if you had to
Now,
put it something.
now there are times that our water department, because you can get into a situation where they're calling every 10 days and you're going back out, remarking. So they do have one type of paint that lasts longer. And we did get a complaint on that type of paint because it can last years.
Oh my.
But we also have a certain chemical that'll remove it, but when you remove it, you could change the color of the concrete too. So we've tried steering away from the longer lasting paint just for that reason.
Okay.
Can I just, sorry, go ahead. I just had a redirect for Chief Boss, a question that I missed. I'm sorry.
No worries.
So I don't think we touched on it at last report. You had 3 officers out. Do you still have 3 officers out?
I have 2 out, 1's back.
Okay.
So today's his first day back, he's very excited.
And then the part-timer that's with Lisa, we still have a part-timer, right?
We do.
Okay.
She is graduated from training, and actually this past weekend was her first weekend alone, so we have code enforcement 7 days a week now, which is great.
That's great to
I'm very
hear.
excited.
I'm
I saw
happy
her
to hear
driving
that.
around.
I did too.
Yeah.
Work on weekends now?
Code enforcement 7 days a week. I wish the paper were here.
Okay, thanks again, Chief.
Sorry, Larry.
Okay, no, that's all right. Mayor and council, anybody have
I
a
have
report?
a question, I don't know if it's a report, something that's been brought to my attention, and I was gonna bring it up to Dale, but I don't know whose department this is. So, across the street from Love's, coming into town, so coming south on Hospital Road, is that south? I'm really bad with directions, so. Apparently there's a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit sign. I never noticed it because it's basically white, but somebody brought it up to me, and then I had another person bring it up to me, so I was like, well, maybe that speed limit sign should be addressed. Who takes care of speed limit signs?
Dale does.
Dale does,
We'll put in a work order tomorrow.
Okay,
And then if they have one in downstairs, they can this week they'll get it up.
okay, awesome.
Sometimes they gotta order those, and then they can take a little bit of time, but that being a common one, we might have one.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Is it a 35-mile-an-hour sign?
I'm not understanding the concern. I guess I missed
Well,
it.
it goes from 45 to a stop sign, but in the between there's a 35-mile-an-hour stop sign.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
faded, it's faded.
It's faded, yeah, you can't even tell.
It's 45 until you get a little bit, so if you're traveling south on Hospital, you know where the driveway is that they pre-planned in case for that? A little bit before that, there's a 35-mile-an-hour sign. You're supposed to be 35 as you approach the stop sign at Middle.
That's the one we're talking about.
Oh,
okay.
It's really faded, yeah.
Yeah.
It just needs to be, yeah.
Okay, I'm
Yep.
sorry, I just didn't understand what the concern was.
It's, you can't tell what it says.
I just
I never
knew
knew
it-
it was there.
I knew it was there, but I
Yeah.
would take that road a lot, so.
Is there any movement in the middle school, digging that well? Have we decided anything about
That right now is in Dell's court. He visited with the engineers, I believe, last week, and so I haven't heard any new news on that one. We are needing a letter from the library that will allow us, that they'll tell them that they're interested in being part of the project and the water being used on their grounds as well. They took it to their board, but then the board wanted more information, so now we gotta send them more information in, I imagine, another week or two. Now, just so you realize that The process of this is probably gonna take 6 months, maybe longer, because this is gonna be a water court application, is what it's sounding like. And, so once you get into water court, it takes a long time. But they can give us I think it's called a supplemental water supply plan, or there's like an interim approval that they can give you if you think it's gonna be a slam dunk and not a challenging court case. And so we'll probably be looking for one of those.
Anybody else, anything? Yes.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, sorry. Along that lines, but we did tell the school district that if they wanna plant the grass, let us know, and we can keep them connected to the city water. Because right now, when they did their demolition, they cut all the lines, so they can easily run a line to their sprinkler system, and we can still help there. And if they wanna plant new grass, we can get it started this year, and then over time, when it's time to switch, we just connect it to the well.
But there wouldn't be a sprinkler system where the building was, right?
Yeah, that part they gotta figure out, but my understanding is they have someone on staff, or we're gonna hire someone to be a district employee that had a landscaping and sprinkler background, and they might be doing that in-house. But that was a discussion a month ago. Where it's at today, I'm not sure.
I was just gonna throw out, just feedback I got while I was having a discussion this weekend, about weeds. You're aware, but just so you're aware, I've got another complaint, so. Yes, sir?
Monty, real quick, since we talked about the school district, we are a week out from school starting. Have we heard anything more about the traffic study, the crossing across Hospital, any of that?
Nothing new on that end, except for the city did go out in the entrance or exit of Thompson. We did go ahead and paint more yellow, so that is safer going out, because cars can't park up that close. One of the concerns from the neighbors there is, by us putting in more yellow paint, they can't park there, so they lose parking. But they said it's a little more challenging for them because a lot of the teachers tend to park on that road instead of in the parking lot. They'll park out there on the exit of Daniel Street, I think it is. And so that's causing some of the parking issues there. On the others, haven't got back to that, but we were also talking about having a joint meeting between the school board and the city council. And so the plan was to get our priorities in order and then have a meeting with them, and that's where everything stopped.
So I appreciate the concern for the smallest of our children at Thompson. However, that is a school that's tucked in a neighborhood. My concern is really that crossing on Hospital, which is a main road, which now has massive truck traffic. And I mean, I am just so afraid at some point some kid is gonna get hit. So is there any way that we as a city can address what's on our property? Is there something that we can do? Can you look into that and see?
Yeah, we can look at, there's I'm not sure if they're gonna solve the problem, but we can do the crosswalk piece of that. And we can get with Bill and see, you know, what kind of partnership we can have there.
Because I think something needs to be done and addressed, especially now that we've increased the truck traffic because of Loves and everything.
Does a crosswalk help? I mean, they're kids.
Maybe even a crossing
When you
guard
were a
that
kid,
would
did you
be
go
there.
on the crosswalk, or did you go the easiest path possible?
Somebody needs to, a parent needs to go to the school board meeting and request a crossing guard on that street.
There you go.
I think it's been done. I don't know for certain that it has, but I think it has been
You
done.
might get a teacher that just volunteers to do it. or
But I do think that a crosswalk or a crossing signal or something is going to cause drivers to pay more attention. Because I think that is the bigger concern, is that drivers are not paying attention. Most drivers, I would say probably truck drivers in specific, are not going to be aware that that is a school entrance, because that is not a road that they travel, nor do they have kids that go into the school in that location. So they're not going to know that there's going to be kids. They're not going to be looking for them.
You know, when you drive a truck, they usually pay a little attention because you're in a big battering ram.
I
bet they pay a little more attention than the average driver.
I would appreciate that, but unfortunately I have seen so many people not paying attention. So if there's something that we could do, I would really like to see it addressed before, you know, it escalates.
Yeah, the other thing is that we have to keep aware that the secondary campus, Bill had mentioned that it's designed to increase by another 250 students. So it's at 750 now, like I said, they can go up to 1,000. So it's only gonna get worse for the future.
Right, so we need to address it, yeah.
But I will reach out to Bill this week and try and set a meeting up next week.
Thank you.
Something you put out there online, I'm sure there's like a bunch of old retired people who would be more than happy, you know what I mean? I mean, people that are retired that need something to do.
The problem is has been pointed out to me, it's not a controlled intersection. It's the middle of a road. Technically, it's jaywalking, I do believe. You're not supposed to be crossing there. Unfortunately, the children are going to do it anyway, because what they're asking them is they're asking them to walk another city block and a half all the way down to Mill and use that crossing, which that's probably one of the most dangerous intersections when it comes to school hours. That intersection right there. So
And then they have to get back to the school, which
so
takes
then they
them
have to walk back another city block and a half. So there's gotta be some way in the middle from them coming out of Ward 1 into the secondary campus. There's just gotta be some way to address it, especially if a housing development does go in, you know, over in Ward 1. Now we're gonna increase the kids leaving Ward 1 that are going to the school and crossing that road. It is just, even a light like the one that's on the other side of town at some point, just specifically for school hours.
Is there a way to do
Something.
like a temporary one like they do on the highway, chief? Like that, you know what I'm talking, when they're doing 34, they have that actual stoplight that was a portable one.
I think that's always an option. I think it'd be better if it was something permanent.
Right.
You know, I think the flashing crosswalk type setup would be ideal. Since it's
Even
not
just the yellow signs that say school crossing with some flashing lights.
Yeah.
I love the ones that are solar powered, which cuts it down on our energy usage, but the solar powered ones where the kids smack it and then it just lights up real good. I mean, something like that, if, I don't know what that does, being that it's not a controlled intersection. I don't know what the ramifications are, or how we go about doing that, but
They do that all the time in areas that aren't controlled intersections. Like I mentioned when we talked about this before, Green Acres isn't a controlled intersection, Sherman's not a controlled intersection, where their crosswalks, well, used to be. I think the Sherman one might be gone actually. But yeah, I mean, it's still feasible to put a stoplight in the middle of a block.
yeah, and you know, now that school's getting ready to start, it's gonna be an issue again, and it's really nice weather, so there's gonna be more kids walking right now than there would be, say, in the winter months. So if we could look at that, I would really, really appreciate it.
Well, buses this year will be back as well, so that'll probably help a bit too, that they can transfer from school to school. So hopefully that would cut down on it a bit compared to the last couple of years at least.
What was that? What's starting again?
The buses between schools, like
Okay.
my daughter, like will take from Thompson to Beaver Valley and back, since we're, you know, that's kind of the hub.
So because of COVID, they had canceled, the kids were not allowed to ride from one school to another school because of COVID. It used to be that you could get on a bus at Beaver Valley, you could be dropped off at the high school because it was closer to your house, much like the kids who went to the middle school or to the library. The in-town route never came back, so there is no in-town route anymore. But now that they can go from school to school, it still kind of helps.
Hopefully
But it-
a little better at least.
a little, but again, if we increase by 250 students.
Well, this is a valuable discussion, and it's not the end of it, but thank you for bringing that up, and the discussion will move forward. Okay, if there's nothing else, then council meeting for August 8th is hereby adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Council, don't leave, because we have a work session.